the Deputy Director of CAIR National, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia. I hope you and your families are doing well and staying safe. Welcome to the latest episode of the Daily Dose, COVID Conversations with CAIR. We thank you so much for joining us. As always, we begin with the name of Allah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. As you all know, we have been hosting this show now for over a week to bring you the information you need to know about the COVID-19 crisis and how the Muslim community is responding to that crisis. Everything from the way it's impacting us to the positive things that Muslim Americans are doing, and also addressing the issues that are coming up, the legal issues, the medical issues that you need to know about, bringing on expert speakers to address those topics. And we've also tried to make sure that we're highlighting the very diverse and intelligent and brilliant people we have leading CAIR chapters around the country. And so I'm very excited tonight to welcome our guest co-host, Ambreen Hernandez, who is the Communications and Programs Coordinator for CAIR-Houston. Ambreen, assalamu alaikum. Welcome to the Daily Dose. How are you doing?
Walaikum salam. I'm doing good, alhamdulillah. How about yourself?
I'm well, alhamdulillah. Please, Ambreen, many of our viewers may know you, especially in Texas, but introduce yourself to all the other viewers and tell us how are things going in Houston right now.
Absolutely. So as you mentioned, I serve as the Communications and Program Coordinator here in Houston in our local chapter. Well, a little bit about me. I'm a first-generation Salvadoran and Pakistani American, born and raised in New Jersey, and now proud Houstonian here in Texas, and really, really happy to be here. So as for Houston, things spiraled very, very quickly. Initially when the news hit and the orders came in for us to stay home, CAIR-Houston and our local Islamic organizations worked really, really quickly to gather informational pieces, even financial resources to serve the community. And so alhamdulillah, that's been really, really amazing to see that it's manifested itself into something really powerful, right? They developed essentially a community fund, for example, that works to help alleviate any burdens such as rent to food, right? Access to food for those communities. And so it's been really, really beautiful and inspiring to see them move so quickly, not just tie their own camels, but to really rise to this challenge with courage and creativity so quickly and together. So, alhamdulillah.
That's wonderful. And that story, is not unique to Houston. I think we're seeing that around the country, in and outside the Muslim community, people responding to this tragedy and treating it as an opportunity to do good, right? Not just to cower in our homes and be afraid, but actually to find ways to help people who are impacted. And that is what we as Muslims in particular should be doing to help the people around us. So I'm glad to hear that's happening in Houston. And alhamdulillah, that's happening around the country. And so may Allah, reward everyone who's doing that work, and may Allah remove the need for that work very soon by lifting this virus from us and allowing us to reconnect with each other soon. In the meantime, though, we are going to keep doing this show, inshallah. And also one of the things that CAIR has done that we're happy to announce tonight is, as a companion piece to this show, we have launched CAIRnewsroom.com. This is a new website, a news platform, a community platform that will highlight the great stuff that is happening in the Muslim community in response to COVID-19, share information about the latest impact of the virus, connect you, the readers, with expert advice about the issues you may be concerned about, worried about, and also give you a chance to share your story. What are the positive things happening in your community, inshallah? You can share those stories on this community platform, CAIRnewsroom.com. And we just launched this today. We've already got some content up now. And Breen, as we discussed, I'm going to show this to our viewers very briefly. I'm going to share my screen and let you all take a look and see what the site looks like. So you should see right now the CAIR Newsroom site. So you'll see here at the top, CAIR community updates on COVID-19. Ayat from the Quran give glad tidings to those who patiently persevere in the times of difficulty that God has promised to the believers. You'll see there are about 4 different sections: just the facts, community responses, spirituality and well-being, from the experts. So the just the facts section shares news, factual information, just what do you need to know about the virus? What is happening in regards to COVID-19. That could be, how many infections are there? How is the community responding to this? So for example, right now under Just the Facts, you'll see an article titled, "Has the Coronavirus Postponed Your State's Primary Election?" If your state hasn't voted in the primary, you can go to this site and you'll see for every state that is yet to vote when its new primary will be. A lot of them have been pushed back to June. So that's what you'll find in the Just the Facts section. You'll also find links to the state health department of your state, whether you live in Alaska, Wyoming, Georgia. You'll find it linked here. You can go and find out what requirements are being put in place in your state, what's the status of the virus in your state. And again, that's updated regularly. Community responses. This is meant to highlight the positive ways that Muslims are responding to COVID-19. So you've got here a great article written by Rula Alush, our national board chairwoman, expressing solidarity with Asian Americans who've been experiencing hate crimes in the wake of the coronavirus spread. You got an article here written by Ayana Jean, our communications coordinator, about a group of Michigan students who have redirected a humanitarian project in Pakistan, redirected it towards working for COVID-19. Spirituality and well-being, we're going to try to highlight some really great spiritual advice that we're getting from the community. That could be from any source. We're going to share it there. And finally, from the experts, this is where you'll get some expert advice. Here's an article written by CAIR National, one of CAIR National staff members, Sami Yesh, 4 ways your business can use social media to stay afloat. Got another article here written by Danette Zagari Mask. What does COVID-19 mean for broken contracts? So great information you'll get there on the site, and we're going to regularly update that, inshallah. You can also watch the latest episodes of the Daily Dose. So these are 2 most recent episodes here. You can click and watch there. If you need to go to the CAIR website to find out, the usual civil rights work CAIR is doing and still doing, you can click here, learn more about CAIR and go there. You can also subscribe. And finally here, there's a map from Johns Hopkins showing the latest stats about the virus. Is it spreading? Are the rates getting better? Is the curve flattening? So right now we can see, as of today, over 275,000 cases in the United States. That makes us the highest official number. Obviously, China is likely not being honest about the numbers they had, but we are still the official highest number, and over 1 million cases total. In the United States, we are now over 6,000 people who passed away as a result of this virus. That's the distressing news. But again, there is positive news. Ambreen just shared some of that positive news about the community. And also, we've got a special guest coming on tonight to share some more positive news, to encourage us to use this as an opportunity to get closer to God and to think about what we're going to be doing, how we're going to be behaving after this crisis passes, inshallah. So, Ambreen, I've talked enough. Let me turn it over to you. Would you like to introduce and talk about our special guest tonight?
Absolutely. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Sister Dalia Mogahed, who serves as the Director of Research with the Institute for Social Policy and Understanding. Really great organization, and so we're really, really happy to have her there. She leads the organization's pioneering research and thought leadership programs on American Muslims, right? She also co-authored a book, Who Speaks for Islam? What a Billion Muslims Really Think. And she did a TED Talk, which you guys should definitely check out. It's called What It's Like to Be a Muslim in America. So, Assalamu alaikum, Sister Dalia. How are you doing?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. I'm doing well, alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. It's great to be here with you.
Thank you so
Great
much
to have you.
for joining us.
Yes. So, Dalia, many people already know you, obviously know about the great work that you've done with ISPU and what you did with Gallup before, the work you've done on policy issues, Islamophobia. But people may not know you are really a great spiritual guide for our community. If you're friends with Dalia on Facebook, you'll see some great advice that we receive, moral advice, spiritual advice, encouragement. And so that's partly why we wanted to bring you here, is yes, to talk about the policy issues and how we apply spirituality to what is happening in the world, policy and all that. But also we want to get some of that great advice and some of those great thoughts from you about how we should be thinking about what this Muslim community in America will be like, what we were like before this crisis, what we're like now, and what we'll be like afterwards, right? And so, Ambreen, I'm going to let you go ahead and ask the first question and take it away, inshallah.
Yes, thank you so much. Edward. So please share with us, how has this shifted your routines? How are you practicing your faith now? That's really different, right? Considering the situation that we're in.
So thank you very much. And I'm really honored that you thought of me for a spiritual topic. It's definitely a passion of mine. And I love talking about it from the perspective of being an absolute layperson. So to emphasize that, because I do think that we all need to engage very deeply with our spiritual life. And I do so, as a layperson and not ever claiming to be a scholar. I first want to just take a step back and recognize that a lot of us are struggling right now. And what I mean by that is there's this assumption in many cases that people have all this extra time now, and they should be devoting that extra time to bettering themselves. And I love the idea in theory, and if you do have extra time, absolutely, that's what you should be doing. But I do want to recognize the many, many people out there who aren't home, right? They're on the front lines, whether they're a custodial staff member of a hospital or a doctor or a nurse or a pharmacist. Whatever they're doing, they're essential workers that are not home and are risking their lives every single day. So that those are folks out there that we need to keep in our prayers and our thoughts. Then there are people who are home not by choice, right? Because they've lost their job and they still have to pay all their bills, and they're overwhelmed and they're anxious and they're trying to figure out how they're literally just going to make it through. And then there are the very privileged among us that are able to, maintain a paycheck of some kind while working at home. And for a lot of those folks, they're busy. They're busy because their kids are home and they're trying to homeschool them, and they're also doing their job. Plus, they're doing extra work related to COVID-19. I think everyone I know has started something that they weren't doing before because of this crisis. Having said all that, and recognizing all that, I still like to think of this period of time when we are forced to be home, where we don't have anywhere to go. The restaurants are all closed, the movie theaters are all closed, we can't really visit anybody. To think of this time as an incubator for what we want to come out being. And I mean that as an individual, as a family, and as a community. A time of khalwa, a time of rethinking. And it's being forced upon us, but we need to surrender to it rather than resist it and be angry about it. It's a gift from Allah that He's forced us to slow down, to take away some of our distractions, so that we can do that inner work that we were just too distracted from before. So how have things changed for me? I'm
Dalia, if I can interrupt. So
yeah,
I'm glad
of course.
you're asking yourself that question, because it's a question I want to ask is, how has your daily routine changed?
Yeah.
What are you doing to stay connected, to stay, engaged, to get your work done, but also get closer to Allah? Because I think a lot of us, when we're trapped at home, the inclination is we turn on the TV, we watch the news,
Right.
We get terrified, we get depressed, or some people Netflix, or, what's your daily routine like, to the extent you can share with us? Because I think some people could take inspiration from that. And before you answer that, I also want to note that we're bringing on a person, Asma Rahman, who is also going to have some questions from the audience to present to you. So Asma, go ahead and come on in and get ready. And we'll, share those questions after Dalia finishes her next answer. Carry on, Dalia, please.
Well, to answer your question on a personal level, I've tried really hard to maintain a structure and a routine with this sort of situation. Now, I have actually always worked from home. So for me, the change isn't radical. What is different is that everyone else is now home too. So
right.
that presents its own differences and so forth. But one thing that I have made sure to do is throughout my life working at home is I treat it like a work day. It's not a weekend, right? So the things you would do if you were going to work, like change your clothes and look presentable, get yourself ready to start an actual work day, and then structure your day, get it into blocks, make your to-do list, do the things that you would do if you were in an office. I also make sure that I go outside and just interact with nature as much as I can every single day, and get exercise. I absolutely, this might sound that it has nothing to do with spirituality, but it actually completely does. I mean, being physically active and spending time breathing the oxygen outside is essential to maintaining a healthy spiritual life. The other thing is I've tried to actually write a lot more, journal. With a lot of people are actually keeping journals through their quarantine, and this is a really important practice to stay present and to stay grateful. So, recording what you are grateful for every single day. If you haven't been doing that, this is a great time to start that habit, because it's something from our tradition that's really important. From the perspective of positive psychology, it's something that there's tons of research behind it. It just makes you happier to recognize what is going right. So those are some things that I've tried to focus on.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing that. I would like to introduce here Asma Rahman, who is our National Chapter Manager. How are you doing, Sister Asma?
I'm doing great. Thank you, Ambreen.
Awesome. So happy to see you.
Same here.
Thank you so much for joining us.
So, Dalia, thank you so much for joining us. It's such a pleasure to see you.
Thank you.
The discussion has been great so far. Mashallah, I've really enjoyed the conversation. We've got some great questions from the audience, and I'm going to start by asking you. So this is a profound moment of spiritual and material reflection. Like of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has put us all in itikaf, as if he's put us in itikaf.
Yeah.
What do you think primary lessons Muslims should be reflecting upon right now?
Yeah. Well, there's a number of things that I think we should be reflecting on right now. The first thing that I think we have to reflect on is how this virus is the great equalizer in some ways. Now, it is and it isn't, but anyone can get it. You have celebrities and even heads of state who have contracted the virus. So the virus does not care how important you are, how rich you are, and so forth. And I think that is a good reminder to us when we become too focused on chasing status and chasing the things that society considers markers of success. That we are all, there's this sort of equal humanity that is emphasized with this crisis. At the same time, it also has shown, and if you look at statistics, I just saw these statistics out of Michigan, that those contracting the virus are disproportionately Black Americans. African Americans are far more likely in Michigan, and I don't think Michigan is special in any way. They're just the only ones that I've seen release numbers around race, where African Americans are 40% of the coronavirus deaths in Michigan and only make up 14% of the population.
Wow.
So they are vastly overrepresented in this. So it also shows that structural inequality, structural racism shows up in these situations. So we both have to see our common humanity, but also we have to address these underlying structural inequalities that become so amplified in these situations of crisis.
So with that in mind, what does this mean for our community? What do our mosques as an institution have to do in order to, get creative and, during this time? So if you can share on that.
So I think, first I just want to say that our mosques matter. Mosques are incredibly important institutions. And I feel like because we've now mosques are closed, maybe it's a good situation. It's a good opportunity to understand just how important they are. Because I think for a lot of people, I was hearing people say, well, I don't care about the mosque. I'm sort of a Muslim on YouTube. I mean, so people have a lot of people have stopped even wanting to congregate. And now that the congregation is not even an option, maybe that will bring some people back. But mosques matter. We do need this human interaction to be together, and experience of face-to-face community. And because they matter so much, they have to step up and they have to take this time to reevaluate what kind of a masjid, what kind of a mosque do they want to be when they open up again. So this idea of an incubation period. Can we take this time to create some virtual task forces within mosques to think about how do we make our mosques the most vibrant, welcoming, inclusive places we can when they open their doors again? And ISPU has been working on this question for now years, and we have, resources, research-backed recommendations for free where people, mosque leaders, can find out how to make their mosque more welcoming. And I think this is the opportunity to do so.
So Dalia, actually, speaking of that, can you talk about the latest initiative that ISPU pushed out on capturing what Muslims are doing in response to the coronavirus?
Absolutely. Thank you, Asma. We are documenting the responses of American Muslims to this crisis in terms of how are they contributing, how are they alleviating suffering, how are they carrying out our faith's call to alleviate suffering and to serve. And in just like 48 hours, we've gotten almost 100 responses of just small and big projects all over the country. Everything from people sewing masks to working there's one phenomenal project in Ohio. They're actually working on an entrepreneur is working on a respirator. His name is Tariq Yusuf, and more and more everywhere. There are just this outpour of generosity, ingenuity, compassion that just makes me so proud. And so I really want to encourage folks to fill out our survey. Let us know what you're working on, because we want to document this. This is us writing our own history in this moment.
Fantastic. So the next question is, what vulnerabilities has this virus exposed? In particular, we'd like to think about our imams, for example, right, who are out of work because they're contract employees. And so what are some of the challenges there with that and the vulnerabilities with those folks?
Yeah. Well, I think that one of the main vulnerabilities that it has exposed is the way by which we fund our organizations, which is a very hand-to-mouth kind of process where people are laying staff off, and very understandably. This is not a criticism, this is just a reality, because we don't have tarawih in congregation this year, and that's where they raise like half their annual budget. Without Joma and the collections box, now we can't pay our imams. So we just have to, this is a situation where we have to rethink how we finance our organizations, how we do philanthropy, how we do fundraising, in a world where we don't have the ability to have events that are physical anymore. The other thing I just want to mention is I'm not sure how many people realize that the American Muslim community has a very significant segment that is poor, that is living below or hovering right at the poverty line. In fact, it's the largest percentage. We as a community, as a faith community, we have the largest percentage of our faith community that lives in that socioeconomic category of poverty or just barely hovering at the line. So we have the most poor people percentage-wise of any faith community. About a third of us are in that category. And so these kinds of crises, they hit our most vulnerable even more. We're also the faith community that has the largest percentage of the faith community that is Black. Okay, so a third of our community is Black. I'm not saying that the two are like being poor and being Black is not the same thing. They're not overlapped, but we do know that the virus is disproportionately impacting Black and brown people. Mm-hmm. So our community is, because of just these factors of our socioeconomic profile and our racial profile as a community, we are being disproportionately impacted by this virus. And then the other side on the other side is, like in Michigan, we're 2.7% of the population and 15% of the doctors of all of Michigan. So 15% of doctors in Michigan are Muslim. So Muslims are impacted in so many different ways, both as frontline, medical workers, impacted because of socioeconomic, impacted because of racial backgrounds. So we have to be cognizant of the everyone's in need, but our community is even more in need.
Mashallah, love those stats. Can you repeat those? How many are doctors?
Yeah, so in Michigan, it's not, this is confusing. It's not that 15% of Muslims are doctors. It's 15% of doctors are Muslim. So of all 15% of all doctors in Michigan are Muslim.
Got it.
And so it's a huge, it's a huge percentage of the medical community is Muslim in Michigan, and they're overworked, they're exhausted, their mental health is being strained. And I mean, I've heard so many people say they've just never seen anything like this. It's unlike anything they've seen. And these are people who work in the ICU and see, very serious illness every single day. And they're like, we've never seen anything like this. So
never have, subhanAllah.
Yeah.
So with Ramadan coming right up, right? This is going to be a Ramadan without Tarawih. And our community is so stressed over it, right? I mean, there are also people who are looking at this and appreciating it for what it has to offer, of course, but that's on everyone's minds. Do you have anything there that you'd like to share?
Yeah, Ramadan is difficult because I know I look forward to Ramadan because I actually get to feel, it's the time I feel most as a part of a community because of Taraweeh in the masjid, because of the iftars that, happen. But I feel, and I know I'm recognizing my privilege in that. A lot of members of our community, Ramadan is a very isolating experience. I think those who had that privilege are now maybe hopefully having the empathy and the compassion for all those others who do experience Ramadan in a very isolating way. But at the same time, it is still an opportunity to reconnect with Allah on an individual level. We know that the Prophet ﷺ did pray Taraweeh, of course, at home, right? He did not, the communal Taraweeh didn't really start until, the time of Khalifa Umar. So in a way, we are going back to the very original sort of model of the tahajjud prayers being something you do kind of on your own. Or even when the Prophet ﷺ would go to the masjid, he wasn't asking people to congregate. It was something that was very much optional and wasn't something that was a part of the regular life of Muslims in Ramadan during his time.
Mm. Going back to your question or your comments about doctors in the Michigan community and nationwide, really, here's a question from the audience. How can we get media to appreciate the role of Muslims who are working in healthcare?
That's a great question.
Well, the first step is to have good research. I mean, I'm biased as a researcher, but it really is. If you don't have a case to say, look, this is the impact they're making. This is a news story. This isn't just, there's a doctor over here and his name is Dr. Khan, so do a story. This is like, you're sort of making the case for why they should care. And that requires research. The second is we all have to, think of the media as like a congresswoman or man. They should be lobbied. It's just like that. And they are lobbied. In fact, they are heavily lobbied by lots and lots of groups and interests, and that is reflected in their coverage. So we need to push for those stories to come out. And when you're armed, when you're equipped with good facts, I mean, that is why my passion is so, I'm so passionate about facts and just getting everyone equipped with those pieces of information, because they help you make the case for positive change. I once heard a TED talk about influence, and the speaker was like the expert, the world-renowned expert on having influence. And he said, when you have power, you only need good evidence. When you don't have power, you need excellent evidence. And that's what good research allows you to do, is to have excellent evidence so you can make your case, even if you're not powerful.
Absolutely, very true. And so at this time, what is your favorite ayat during this time? If you had to choose.
Yeah, I have been contemplating for a few days, is one in Surah At-Tawbah, and it describes. So it's about it's a ayah that was speaking about the 3 Sahaba who didn't go to the battle and on purpose, and then they were being socially boycotted because of that. And then it was the ayah that basically ended the social boycott and said that they were forgiven. And in that ayah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes their state, how they felt inside. And it says they felt like the earth was constricting around them, and that they felt that even their own souls had constricted around them. And that imagery of it's like this perfect description of a certain mental health, of how you feel sometimes when a situation is really difficult. It is as if you can't even stand to be inside your own self. You want to escape. And I've been thinking about that a lot in terms of how we are restricted to our homes. We have this feeling of maybe some of us feeling constricted, feeling worried, feeling anxious, and then the beauty of the rest of the ayah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it's the beginning. This is the amazing thing when it describes the tawbah for them. It starts with Allah, and it says Allah is the one that taba alayhum, and then they did their tawbah. That Allah essentially almost like returned to them, and then they returned to Allah, where He initiated the tawbah process, which was it's
important.
Absolutely,
that's so beautiful. Yeah, that's so beautiful, mashallah. Well, thank you for sharing that, Dalia. Our last question for the evening is this: if you could, what message would you put on a billboard right now? what would you want the world to know?
I think, my message almost all the time is around compassion, but like now it has to be even more, but it's compassion at the time of Corona. We have to put our compassion on steroids. Like, we have to be as compassionate as possible, more compassionate we've ever been, to ourselves, to those around us that we're sharing our space with, to those out there who are struggling and suffering. Compassion just has to be our signature trait, and it should be all the time. The Prophet ﷺ is described as a rahmah to all the worlds, and he is our example. So that should be our signature trait every single day, all the time. But now it really has to be where we begin, our point of departure. What is the compassionate thing to do in this moment?
That is such a powerful reminder. And, we tend to just let ourselves get into the negative, let ourselves start blaming others for everything that's going wrong in our lives, especially right now. But you're absolutely right. Compassion is exactly where we should be all the time, but such a wonderful reminder to, have that right now. So Dalia, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It was an honor and a pleasure learning from you, mashallah. We look forward to continue collaborating with you and connecting with you in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me. Take care.
So
Stay
much.
safe.
And I wanted to thank Ambreen. You have been a fantastic co-host tonight, and I'd be honored to co-host again with you anytime in the future, inshallah.
You too. Thank you so much. This has been really, really fantastic. I'm so happy that we had a chance to chat with her, and she's been offering really, really insightful advice for all of us. So inshallah,
100%.
we hope
Yeah.
benefit.
So thank you, Ambreen. And to our dear viewers, as Edward mentioned in the beginning of the show, please make sure you check out www.cairnewsroom.com for regular updates about how the Muslim community is responding to COVID-19. And make sure to join us again on Monday for a special program all about how the stimulus bill impacts the Muslim community, with another special guest. Her name is Warda Khalid. She's a congressional fellow at the Asian Pacific American Institute for Congressional Studies at Congressman Judy Chu's office. And she's also the founder and president of Polygon Education Fund. Thank you all again. Take care of yourselves and each other. Assalamu alaikum.